What's good, you too? How's everyone doing this lovely Sunday afternoon? It's your boy Reg in the building. I got my homeboy Trial with me.
What up?
I got special guest, my homeboy Mike with me, Mike Movies. How you doing?
What's goody?
Not much. All right, so like I did with a certain episode of Power and stuff like that, we're going to talk about the first four episodes of Bel-Air. Mind you, this is not a season breakdown because, as y'all can see, the season is still in progress and shit like that. It's not one of those shows where they just drop the whole season
Right,
and
right.
stuff like that. You have to wait actually a week and stuff too, which that's interesting as hell. But okay, so Bel Air came out last week, last Super Bowl to be exact. We only don't want to talk about the first four episodes, the characters. When the whole season is done, we'll just do whole season breakdown. But my thoughts on this show so far, I fucking love it.
Hmm.
To be real with you, but I'm gonna give y'all history because the show is pretty much a dramatic retelling of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. The Will Smith sitcom that ran from 1990 to 1996 on NBC. So the story with this particular one was the fact that I think like 2 years ago, this guy made like a fan made trailer. His name was Jabari Banks, ironically last name Banks and shit. Okay.
Right.
Um, so he was a huge fan of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So he did like a trailer called Bel-Air to YouTube, and it was like a fan made film and stuff like that. And it was just like a fictionalized version, but then it caught like a lot of people's attention, and so much that Will Smith, he saw that shit, he liked it, and he wanted to actually expand on it to make a dramatic reboot on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. And around this time too, Fresh Prince of Bel Air was really celebrating its 30th anniversary. They had the cast reunion and shit like that too.
Right.
And around this time, of course, this was like the height of the whole reboot culture, and it had like a lot of mixed reactions from a lot of people because like a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, you can't reboot this." And stuff like, which I'm not gonna lie, I was saying that. I've been saying that for the fucking longest. Or I'm not here for the reboot and shit like that. I'm tired of all these goddamn reboots, whatever and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then the other side of me was just like, well, technically it's like a dramatic take, and it's just like certain stuff. And this is one thing that like I'm kind of noticing about when it comes to like certain things that was released back in the day. Is like people will automatically saying now, oh, certain shit wasn't really funny back in the day as is now and shit like that. Like Good Times is a perfect example and stuff too, because like you know people wouldn't say, oh, they were surviving the ghetto and shit like that too. But then there's some other people who look at the show now and it's just like they're making the ghetto seem like it's just a fun, loving kind of time and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And just benefiting off stereotypes and stuff too. But so the show has a cast and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? The cast includes Jabari Banks, he's Will Smith, Cassandra Freeman as Vivian, Jimmy Akambola as Jeffrey and stuff like that. Um, Ali Sholotin as Carlton, Coco Jones as Hillary, who's probably like
Yeah.
the best known name out of the whole show and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? She's a Disney Channel actress. She's a Disney Channel actress and stuff like that. She was on that movie. I'm not gonna lie. Everyone's talking about Coco Jones. I'm not really the biggest Coco Jones fan like that. And so don't even get me started. So I'm just gonna say who it is and shit. That's all I can say.
Mm.
Yeah, and they have Akira Akbar as Ashley, Simone Joy Jones as Lisa. Yes, Lisa's already debuted in the early, but we'll get to that. Jordan L. Jones as Jazz, and finally Adrian Holmes as Philip. All right. You also have April Parker Jones. She plays Vi and stuff like that. She appeared on the Tyler Perry soap opera and If 11 You Was Wrong and stuff too. So yeah, that's like really the main cast. Karuchi's also on this show too.
She is.
She plays some girl named Ivy. That's what I'm looking at Wikipedia.
I haven't
I
seen
think
it.
she, I think she's one of Lisa's friends, if I'm not mistaken. I ain't really pay attention, but hey.
Right.
All right, so I talked about the cast. Okay, so first four episodes, I'm just gonna give like a quick synopsis or whatever. But actually, let's talk about. Excuse me, before I get to that, I'm sorry. How the characters are in this series and shit like that. But I want to get before I get to that, I want to get to y'all thoughts on the show so far. I talked too much already.
I think the show is very is good. It's the characters are different from the original one. Especially Hillary. When I feel like Hillary is like more independent in this series, and she's more smarter than Karen Parsons when she played Hillary, and I feel like she was more like lackadaisical and an airhead on the original one. Um, Ashley, we haven't seen too much of Ashley yet.
Right, she
We've
only been
seen
like
we
two episodes.
Yeah, and immediately like for the original one, like Will when he came into the house, like he had that bond with Ashley, and I mean not seeing that in this show. Instead he has like a more bond like close relationship with Hillary. Carlton and him don't get along, which is what happened in the original one, and even with Carlton, like he's taking drugs in this one, and that was very different. Jeffrey is more like a henchman in this one. He's not a butler like serving people. Um, it's very different from the original one, but I think it's a good you know uh drama, and I like the fact that we get to see like a different Will, where it's like he pulled a gun on a drug dealer back in Philly, and in order for the drug dealer was coming after him and his homeboy Ice Tray, and his mom shipped him out to Bel-Air to get away from the violence and all that. So I like the fact that they included that in the pilot, and you know
This Will
Will
was dangerous.
yeah, he was dangerous. He was thugged out, Will, and like it was more of an adjustment period for him, going out to Belly, just like in the original one. And Uncle Phil is totally different. Like he's not big, fat Uncle Phil. Like he's more slim. He's more in shape. He still got the bald head, but it was a more slim down, toned up Uncle Phil, and he's running for mayor. Is it mayor he's running for?
DA.
DA, and um him and Will butt heads at times, but I think now that he's they're coming around and they're getting closer, and of course that's gonna make Carlton feel some type of way, because the Uncle Phil, he tried to teach Carlton how to play basketball, and instead he went to do lacrosse, and he had his white friends, and he felt like he fit in more, he can relate more to his white friends, compared to his own people. And I think with I think that out of all the characters, Carlton is the one that is very different in this one to me.
Oh
Like just him, like
yeah.
like the snorting the coke and all that. I'm like, I don't remember. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I remember in the OG one, like Carlton. I think he tried drugs,
He
but it wasn't.
accidentally took it.
He took it, right, but it wasn't like a part of his story. And with this one, this Carlton is totally different, and you got Lisa. Lisa used to date Carlton, and then they on the outs, and she end up kissing Will, and Carlton is jealous, and Carlton is like spreading rumors about her around the school, and I think it's like the way that they did it now, it's modern, and it speaks to the times of like what's going on now in this country, and Um, Even with like the cops and Will's not liking the cops and all that, and um, it's definitely I wasn't all in for it before. 'Cause I'm like, yo, like Fresh Prince is my one of my favorite sitcoms that I grew up with, and um, I was like, let me give it a chance, and I watched it, and I'm like, I like it, and I like the way that they did it, and it's good that Will Smith is also on board and making sure that this show keeps certain things true to the original one, and I like the fact that he was on board to oversee the project and not have like somebody come and totally redo it and mess up the legacy of that show, and the guy that plays Will, like this, he has like certain mannerisms that I see,
Yeah,
like especially like when he was clowning Carlton. I'm like, that's Will all day when he was doing that, and it feels like a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show, but it has like that. It's more dramatic than comedy, but I like the way that they did it.
yeah, it was very unique and shit.
Yeah, yeah,
What about you, Mike?
You know what? I went into very low expectations of watching the show. I told myself I was going to give it one episode.
yeah,
When I watched it, and mind you, this was around probably, I want to say, close to 4 o'clock in the morning. I probably the first 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, this is all
right,
right.
right,
But once I got through the first episode, now I'm hooked.
yeah,
I I I'm gonna say this. It's
mm,
one of the better shows I've seen in a long time.
right,
Besides Cobra Kai, if you ask me the top five, if you ask me to name a top five shows,
mm,
Fresh Prince will be up there.
okay,
Gotcha.
Um, Now as far as the actors, okay, I'm gonna have to Carlton. I'm gonna have to tap in on him for a second.
mm,
That nigga, he a mark. Okay,
yeah,
he no, I the actor who plays him, I think to me is too stiff.
right,
I think it is almost sound like if I'm like hearing like a what do you call those, like a audit. I don't know. He talks like if he's doing an automated system. At
mm,
times
Damn.
he does, but
mm,
the episode where his parents like they missed his lacrosse game and all
right,
that stuff, and once he snorted the Xanax, and then
mm,
he went to Will's like basketball. That was the strongest I've seen him in.
yeah,
That was a strong performance.
I agree.
Um, Ashley, I think she's underused.
Yep,
That's just my opinion. I would like to see more Ashley. Um, I like the fact that they made Hillary more like career driven and
yeah,
smart,
right,
but I haven't really warmed up to her quite yet. Jazz, I think, is one of the best characters on that show because of the
yeah,
fact that he's not only humble, but he's actually like smart. He's a person that you can like talk to or you can relate.
right,
Um, Uncle Phil, I think he's
yeah.
a little too stiff as well, but
I've heard people
that's
say
just
that.
me. You said what?
I've heard people say that about Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil.
Aunt Viv, the actress who played her. I feel like she's kind of channeling that Janet Hubert.
Yeah.
I think she's kind of
Yeah,
channeling her in a
Mm,
way because, like, from a distance, when you hear her voice, it kind of sounds like her.
yeah.
I agree.
Uh, yeah, it kind of does sound like her. I think she's fair, but Jabari Banks, I think, is probably the strongest point.
Yeah.
Um, like it took me a minute to warm up to him, but I like his take. on Will Smith because he's just not only he's just charismatic, but
Mm-hmm.
there are some, like you mentioned, some mannerisms that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think probably come like Emmy time or whatever. I think
Yeah.
if I had to if I had to guess, maybe Jabari Banks or the actor who played Jazz. I think an Emmy consideration.
Right. I agree.
I agree too. Yeah, man, definitely. And speaking of Carlton, what do y'all think about the fact that they made Lisa and Carlton dating in this reboot? I
Well,
have a lot to say about this.
they was dating in the original run. The
Nah,
original, no.
nope.
Well, I mean, I think that part of of the story, I think that's gonna just have there's gonna be like ongoing tension between Will and Carlton because of that, because of the fact that when they were at the party, Carlton saw Lisa kiss Will, so he already know that, oh well, Lisa dumped him, and like his like have a thing for his cousin and they friends or whatever. And I think Colton have himself to blame for that, and because like he was spreading rumors about Lisa after they broke up, and she didn't like it, and she's still been a friend to Colton even after all that was going on. And I think that's why they added that. Like that's going to be like the like they still going to be. I feel like they're still going to be cordial to each other, but they still, as long as Lisa is in the picture, they still going to have that tension between them because of that. And um I'm like, that's not even believable. When I was watching it in a pilot episode, I'm like, Lisa is like too good to be with Colton.
I
Just the way
agree.
that he is, and that he it's almost like he denounces his own people to fit in with the white crowd, with the in crowd or whatever. No, knowing like like they planted drugs in Will's bag and got him suspended off of from school or whatever. And Carlton could have easily stepped up and been like, yo, like it was this person. He didn't even step up for his own flesh and blood. And I feel like he he is like what they call an Uncle Tom, and it's like we've seen that before, and he was like that in original, but like it's I think it's more prevalent now, especially with the way that the country is now, and the fact that he's like he has a drug problem, and the family doesn't know about it. It's only Will that knows about it, and Will could have batted on him at any point, and he didn't. Even with the ongoing tension between them and Lisa, and I think they just added that. 'Cause I do feel like by the end of the season, even before then, I think that Lisa gonna end up hooking up with Will anyway, and it's gonna, the Carlton's gonna be pissed off about it. But at the end of the day, I think that there's not really nothing he's gonna be able to do about it. Like Lisa's just gonna make her choice that like Will is gonna end up being her boyfriend, and Carlton is gonna have to live with it. So
Yeah, yeah. I believe that part. I don't. I'm not gonna lie. That's like my least favorite part of the reboot. If I had to pick one,
uh
because it's fitting with all these CW. It's too CW
right,
drama s
right,
Riverdale drama esque and stuff like that. Because it was just like everything was going good with how the character was portrayed.
uh
Hell, I even liked how they introduced the ice trade. Because if you remember back in the original, yeah, Don Cheadle, I think it was like the fourth or fifth episode. His friend Ice Trade came from Philly.
right,
I like how they brought him back on this reboot, but then it's like how they portray Carlton. I
mm,
don't know. It's just like it's just a lot to deal with and stuff
yeah,
like that too.
yep,
I'm just thinking about the Alfonso Ribeiro meme and shit. I keep seeing and shit.
The one
What
thing
about
I
you?
the one thing I feel bad about Carlton is that the fact that he's trying to get his like dad's attention because now since Will is came to the picture and then
yeah,
since they have basketball in common,
mm-hmm,
then he's the Carlton sees that it Philip is spending more time with Will.
right,
I that part I feel bad for him because really I could really relate to that.
mm,
So on that part, like I feel bad for it. But other than that, though, like at the same time, like come on, you popping Xannies, and then two, you being a total asshole, and then
Right.
to boot, you letting some you and one of your friends saying the N word in a rap,
Mm-hmm. Right.
while having a little rap session. I don't
Mm-hmm.
blame that part. I don't blame Will for stepping up.
Right.
I would have did the exact same thing.
Same.
Facts.
So it's
Facts.
like you can't get mad. You can't get mad at that. It's like you gotta remember where you came from.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what Will told him in the last episode. Like when they were going around trying to get the votes for Uncle Phil, and like every time they were going to like a different house, they were having the door slammed in their face, and Will was like, "You're not." It's like he don't connect with his people. And from Carlton's argument is like, oh well, you're too hood, and I don't buy that, and I think you're fake, and I don't feel like Carlton connected with his people for whatever reason at some point. Like maybe he connected at some before high school, but once he got to high school, he wasn't the same person. You know what I'm saying? And I
That's
feel like,
natural.
huh?
That's normal and shit too. Just because when like once you get that little independence and stuff like that, you want to see. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it's
Mm.
like you want to see different kinds of views. You want to see different kind of cultures and stuff like that. So he probably just assimilated to that culture.
But if he like look like if he had like it comes to the point now like it's like okay, you have these white friends that you're comfortable being around them and being like the token black guy in the crew, and they saying the N word. So how does he feel about like if he had an Asian friend and they calling them a racial slur? How would he feel about that? You know what I'm
That's a good
saying?
question.
So it's like I agree that Will was right to intervene in that situation. Like, 'cause, like if Colton like that's a racial slur to us, and Colton has no problem with it because maybe he doesn't view himself as a black person anymore.
That
Because remember,
hate
like when he was doing that speech with all of them there, and Will came in and he's like, "Oh, these are my people. These are my people." So he don't identify with black people. You know what I'm saying? So that it's like a complex that he has that you know his parents need to address that.
Yeah, they'll probably address it
Yeah.
later on the show and stuff like that. Um, so I think they're making Ashley a lesbian
What?
What?
in the fourth
No.
episode.
No.
I maybe
Cause when she went to the boys' house to play games with them.
okay. I don't know what I was watching, but
Is that a rumor that they making her lesbian?
I was reading on social media that I might do that, but I know Jeffrey's more street smart.
Yeah. Jeffrey is like Alfred from Gotham.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I was so used to seeing Alfred in the '60s show just serve people, and then in Gotham he was like kicking butt. You know?
Yep. Yeah, Alpha was getting down in Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
This Jeffrey
crazy.
was good
Yeah.
in this case. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What would y'all say is your favorite episode so far of this show? After four episodes.
I think it was the pilot and how they did the pilot and how like we saw the difference with this version of Will compared to the OG one, and like Will pulling a gun. He was hurt. Like Will pulling a gun on a drug dealer, and he wanted to stay in this hood. Like he didn't want to go to Bel-Air. Like he was
Right.
happy being the star of his high school team and being in the hood with his peoples, and he didn't care to go out there. And I'm like, that was a different version of Will that I don't think they could have pulled off, 20 something years ago, because it would have been too hood for NBC, and just the way that everything happened, and his mom sending him off, and we understood why she sent him off, because she didn't want him to get killed by this drug dealer that people were afraid of in the neighborhood, and somehow the drug dealer ended up finding him anyway, but Jeffrey took care of that, and I like the way that everything was set up, and it was totally different. I'm like, once I saw that episode, I'm like, yo, this is definitely going to be a different version of Bel Air, and I wanted to see what happens for the rest of the season. So I think for me, it's going to be the pilot episode, and but all the other episodes were great though.
Yeah. To me, I like the third episode the most. To be real with
Hmm.
you,
Yeah.
where you had like a lot of the relationships getting like formed and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You see Will and Phil's relationship growing. You see what's his name? You see like the whole Uncle Phil's
Yeah.
fraternity.
Yeah.
Will was trying to bring that out in him and
Yeah.
shit like that. Which that was a pretty dope scene too in
Yeah.
itself. So yeah, it was like I said, it was a pretty good show and shit.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike?
I'm gonna have to say the first as well too. Like
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like the whole setup. The one thing
Hmm.
I kind of wish for was, remember in the very first episode where Philip and Will, they had that confrontation like
Right.
towards the end of the episode,
Hmm.
where I think Will was like, I didn't ask to come here. You want me to be like Carlton.
Right.
In this case, I wish that now in this one they had that confrontation, but I wish it was a little long, just a tad bit longer. But like I said, I liked it for what it was.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, I had to. All of them are really good.
I felt like Uncle Phil is doing this as a favor to his wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And in the original, I didn't feel like that. I felt like the original Uncle Phil, like he genuinely loved Will, and he bailed him out of situations in that one. And I feel like with this Uncle Phil, it's more about him, and it's more about him becoming DA, and having that support from his immediate family. And then Will comes along and disrupts everything. It's like, oh, well, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna do this a favor for Vivian, but if you get out of line, then I'm gonna ship you back to Philly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like, even though like they're getting closer, I still feel like it's a favor to Vivian, and whereas the original Uncle Phil genuinely had that love for him.
right.
Interesting. Yeah, that could be a nice way of putting it too. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, cause he like even with the last episode, and you see Vivian kind of lost herself becoming a mom, and making sure Phil wins this election, and she's an artist, she's a natural painter, and she misses painting, and she wants to get back to that. And then it's like, being that Willis is like shit, that's another thing for her to worry about. But I think like Vivian is gonna be like, yo, like I gotta do me, and I gotta find myself again. And if it means, focusing more on herself and not the family, then I think that's what's gonna happen. And she's
Yep.
gonna get back into painting, and then we're gonna see if Phil agrees with that. I guarantee there's gonna be problems if she say, "Oh, I'm gonna be a painter again." He ain't gonna like that.
Yep. That's all. That's I can already see the mile ahead and shit. Trust
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Anything else y'all want to say about this show so far? Or oh, shit.
I love
Um.
the music. The music is good. I like the
Yes.
way that they integrated like some old school and the new school, and it reminded me. And I know you hate Insecure, Reg. I loved Insecure, and I love the music playlist for that show, and it reminded me like a lot of the music choices reminded me of that show. For the like different scenes in California, and situations, and I think the music is great, and a lot of the younger crowd is gonna be able to relate to this show.
Yeah. Speaking of the music, one
Uh huh.
song I was surprised they played that Tribe song
Yes.
devoted to the rhythm of shaking butts. I was just like, yo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because when it comes to these shows, you always hear maybe electric relaxation, which they played. Check the rhyme scenario.
Yeah.
Can I kick it? I was shocked they picked that song
Right.
and shit too. Like when I heard that dun dun dun
Mm-hmm.
dun dun dun
Yes.
dun dun. Ah man,
Mm-hmm.
dope, dope, dope.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of how that show She Got to Have It, that
Yes.
Spike Lee
That
show
was
when they
good
used to
too.
play random music and shit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that got canceled, but I'm not gonna lie, that last season was kind of bad. He too. But yeah, you have anything else to say about the show, Mike? Before I wrap this up?
Um. I just like the nostalgia. Like I like the whole like nostalgia. I the music. Yeah, I'm not the huge, not the biggest fan, but at the same time, I understand why it could adapt to
Right.
this generation.
Yeah.
But
Right.
go ahead.
Well, I said right.
I'm curious to see like what's gonna happen. Like I'm just curious. Now it's like now I want to know like how this season's gonna play out, and hopefully we get a season two. Hopefully,
Right.
fingers crossed.
Yep.
Yeah, because like I said, this is actually a reboot I like
Right.
because I've seen other trashy reboots and stuff like that. I'm just like, if they cancel this shit and stuff like that, I'm gonna be kind of mad.
Yeah.
Fuck it, because that's the only reason why I reactivated the my Peacock account and shit.
Right.
Because like once the season's over, I'm gonna get rid of the premium shit. But other than that, yeah, man, I don't want to spend too long on this and shit like that. But I'm gonna drop this tomorrow afternoon, well Sunday afternoon and shit. But thank y'all so much for watching. And yes, the season breakdown is gonna come. I think the season's gonna be into late March and shit like that. So
Yeah.
that has to wait till late March for it. Um, before I end off this video, I just want to let y'all know the Why the Beef episode of the Murder Inc. supergroup is finally up. All
Okay.
the copyright stuff has all finally been handled and shit like that. Cause I was out and I saw comments on that video. I was like, oh shit, okay, the video's up already. So
Right.
that's good because I got tired. My laptop was running out of storage due to some of the videos and stuff like that too. So
Okay.
yeah. Also, please stay tuned later on today at 11 o'clock when we continue getting into the top 100 of the top 150 rap albums of all time. Finally in the top 100 and shit like that too. So that's gonna be at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Well, later on today, excuse me. So yeah, appreciate it, Try.
All
Appreciate
right.
this mic
Thanks,
and
Michael.
stuff like that. Hope y'all have a good night.
All right.
Peace.
Peace out.
Peace.